out. What are you doing? Is that your other job or what's happening? What are you doing?
There is a rave going on 3 blocks away with like 15,000 people. And I did my last song, and I walked to the supermarket because it was so loud. So I sent Charlie a picture of where I was at.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, what do your stocking shelves look like anyway?
I am in the supermarket. I have like next to the gate. I'm at the Gatorade section.
Oh, okay.
Hey man, when you're old school, you do it from where you need to do it.
You got to do what you got to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the great Tony Moran. Tony, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I mean, you got things to do. You can't be just hanging out with us, but thank you so much for taking time and talking to us. We wanted to talk real quick about your freestyle background and how you got involved in, well, you were the movement. I mean, you were a DJ, and then you got on the radio, and then Arthur Baker pulled you in. We heard from Arthur Baker. How did it all come about?
That was amazing, and also the segment that you did with Arthur Baker is really fascinating and it's insightful, and it was the best first boss I ever had. Who actually thought that whatever it is that I was doing had a value to it, and even though he would make like snappy remarks about like why are you fucking on my record, he was like, he's also telling me that he wants me to fuck up all his records,
right?
So I'm like. So I got the lingo pretty quick, and he really is like between guys like from Cutting Records and Aldo Marin, they were putting the money where their mouth is to go in and invest on these things and projects, whether they're on independent or whether Arthur Baker was working on them on major labels, and I don't know if he was meant to be a teacher, but I think like allowing you to be present in his work environment. There was no better education to have because you didn't have to ask questions. Just if you were there long enough, you would see how things unfolded and things would come. And, back then when I had more interest in reading, I read every manual to every device that we had.
That's so cool. We were talking to Carlos Berrios earlier today, and he said he paid you the best compliment. He said that when he was up and coming, you were in the studio and you were editing, and you just kind of turned around and you noticed that he was there, and you embraced the fact that he was new, and you said, do what you got to do, be the best you can be. And I mean, I don't know you that well, but I mean, every time that's the kind of vibe you give off, man, and that it speaks volumes about your character and just who you are. And I mean, it translates into your music too. I mean, you're Tony Moran, man. I mean, I'm just going to run down this list of people that you've worked with real quick. And I'm not sure I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but Michael Jackson, Expose, Selena, Luther Vandross, Barry Manilow, Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, John Cicada. I mean, the list goes. I mean, I could speak volumes. I mean, did you wake up once a night? Do you ever look at yourself in the mirror and go, wow, I'm doing pretty good? Or
to be honest, it's like you are better capable of defining or referring to how that happened or why that happened after, because then you get to re-experience, and that's when the gravy comes. That's when you're like, whoa, I was in the studio with Celine Dion and Cher and Janet Jackson. I produced Donna Summer's last song. And as all these things were going, it's just like what you had to get done. And basically, I believed that I would do in the capacity of any artist I was working with, that I was going to do my homework and I was going to make sure that I went in there knowing as much as possible, and then continue to educate myself to be able to learn more. And I don't want to be a one-man. I honestly was never really meant to be a one-man show. The only thing is that I guess because of people like Arthur, that I obtained a great talent or a great ethic to want to get things finished that I started.
I get that.
So that's like 90% of getting the song done. It's just like, it's not about like waiting until it's perfect. It's waiting until you feel good about it and you just get it out there. And then you learn after from what, because Could I have done Show Me Better? Yeah, I would love to produce it from scratch in that form with that group. You know, originally in the '80s, there's so many little nuances that I'd like to fix, but 500,000 singles and radio song went on the pop chart. Why am I going to mess with that?
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing
You know?
feeling. You're driving around going, "I did this record, I did this record, I did this record." How did your partner, you were one half of the Latin Rascals? How did that collaboration come about with you and Albert?
I worked at a record store called Downtown Records that was in New York City, and I was there. I was so hungry for records, but I lived with my parents, and so I couldn't afford music. So I told the guy that I would pack their boxes and do their shipping mails, and they just gave me records for pay.
Oh, that's awesome.
In between college.
That's very cool.
But in New York City, there were like three very elite places that specialized in import selections and dance music. And one was Vinyl Mania in New York. The other one was Downtown Records, and then there was one other one I think was called Rebel in New York City that believed in buying imports and believed in promoting them, and I would just love selling records to people like Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles and just all kinds of people. And then in that environment, in that generation, without I don't have anything against Facebook or Instagram because I use it every day, but basically people had to talk to each other. I could look at somebody playing the break to Apache and see their enthusiasm about wanting to scratch it and make it go again. You know what I mean? And so I used to do that, playing all different kinds of imports to say what they could do with it, extend it, and then it just that enthusiasm brought me to wanting to extend records, to play around with editing them. To Shep Pettibone was doing it on a more limited basis. He would do a few edits on a song, but to me, I was so into it. It was never ending. It could be infinite, but I did get it finished. Every time we did a Latin Rascal Paco Super mixtape, I was like, this is all we can do.
Yeah.
And plus, we have no money and we can't afford to buy more tape.
Right. So how did I agree about the Facebook thing too with the culture? There's not you don't have the showing up at the record store culture anymore. But how did you meet Albert? How did that all come about? He was at the record store too.
How did I meet who?
Albert. How did you get with Albert to form the Latin Rascals?
He was a customer, so he was doing his own other work, and he just came up. He's like, I'm Colombian, he's Puerto Rican, and he came up to the store one day, and I had gotten a reel-to-reel and was starting to test around doing stuff, and Albert and I were in the same age group, and I just was like, nobody will listen to my tape in the store because they think I'm a punk kid, and I haven't gotten laid yet. And they were right on all counts. All right. No, but I made up for it.
There you go.
But the thing is that I was able to look at him eye to eye and just be honest about it. I was like, "Would you listen to my tape? Tell me what you think." I didn't know that he did edits on cassette or pause, and he was like, "Yeah, yo, I'll hear it." And I gave him a cassette, and then he called me back and he was like, "Yo, that's the bomb." And just by chance, I happened to be doing similar things. And when I heard his tape, I had no way of being able to think that could have been possibly undertaken on a cassette deck. So it just, honestly, I just believe in music that is just it's not what you got, it's what you do with it.
Right.
So whether it's two people rubbing sticks together or people playing on the conga drum, that could be the hook of the song. It's just what you do with it, and the artistry is in being able to convey your person, not your personality, to express how personal you made it to want it to be the percussion for that Michael Jackson song, or the percussion for a Gloria Estefan song, or a percussion for a hip hop track. It's just I was able just to witness that people needed to know that it was they were part of this A team that made stuff happen.
Right.
And then I was just, I never got like an official role, but I was on every single record, that Arthur did, that he remixed. And he just had a lot of confidence in me. And again, I cannot thank him enough, because I was also sharing with you earlier when you were telling me about his FaceTime interview, is that, I couldn't afford, and of course after I made my first hit, which was Show Me, I was only able to record that song because Arthur Baker would let me use the recording studio for free, just as a favor to the kid, between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I had to clean it up and do a session.
Wow.
So really, Arthur was just as much a part of us to create that opportunity. And then I used the keyboard players that he used, because at this point, I really love working with people. So I'm a collaborator. And I just, and I would sing them notes and then say I couldn't play it on the keyboard. And they were just, honestly, just in a very nice way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they just respected me for being different. And Albert. It's just that I would ask questions that were like 2 paragraphs long, because I just have an endless abyss of questions that I have for all things in the world, whether they're tangible or not. I'm not an information whore. I'm just like, I love to learn.
Right. So how old were you when Show Me? I'm sorry. How old were you when Show Me came out?
How long was Albert with me?
How old were you when Show Me came out? I mean, how old when you were working on that record?
17.
17.
When I made it, 18 when it came out.
So you're 18 and you hear it on the radio for the first time. I mean, I know the answer. How does it feel? Pretty good, I'm guessing. I mean, where can you tell me where you were, or what happened, or can you?
Yeah, I was in a Cutlass Oldsmobile with Andy Panda, and the song was done like 2 weeks ago, and we were driving from one recording studio to another, and the person, like, we go to a stoplight, and there's a person blasting the radio with Show Me on, and it's not like we're like Whitney emotional. It was just so emotional,
right?
Like screaming, and of course there was nobody we could call because cell phones weren't invented yet.
Yeah.
So it's just, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy. I knew the answer, kind of, because, were you going to feel great? Of course you're going to feel amazing. And it has to stop. Tony, I know you're a busy man, and you've taken time to talk to us here on this little show in my basement, and I can't thank you enough for just all the support and all the love and all the, everything. Thank you for being you, Tony, really. Thank you. And we're going to play some more Tony Moran music here for you, or for everybody else, and I'm sorry?
Well, I just want to tell the whole freestyle community that, you guys are my birthplace, and you guys are the reasons that I had communication to send, and your receptiveness to that made my entire life, and so it's you don't forget when you get to a different level. I'm just saying that it's super important. It's super important to me, to let you guys know how much I appreciate it. And to be honest, everything that I do, Now Rogers or writing a song with Britney Spears, it really all leads to the emotions that you and the skill that you want to put into what you're doing for them. Same thing, different notes.
Yeah.
But it's the same heart.
We love you, Tony. We love you. Thank you again, Tony, so much. And ladies and gentlemen, Tony Moran, everybody.
Okay.
Not just Chicago, but the whole world.
Do you guys need Gatorades to go, since I'm someplace for like 19 Gatorades?
I'm good with Gatorade.
I hope it was good.
It was perfect. Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Moran.
It's been so long. It's been so long. It's been so long.